Hello everyone, my name is Vlasles and I'm Chief Operating Officer at Silicon Valley Innovation Center. Today we're going to talk about 6 ways you can kickstart your digital transformation in 2020 using your internal resources. And 2020, we all understand, is a very special year where previously proven tactics and previously proven methods do not work anymore. And this shift really produces 2 news for us. The first one is bad news. Unfortunately, if we look into the S&P 500, 60% of the stocks that we see out there is lower compared to the pre-COVID levels. However, 40% of those companies who are innovative, who are disruptors, who are digital transformation-enabled companies are pulling the whole markets higher. But that means that as world gone virtual and the physical barriers are removed, few and fewer businesses are protected by the geographical borders, by the language borders, and other limitations that have been around for centuries. The good news is that it is still not all the companies are there. So therefore, it presents a unique opportunity for your own company to start your journey right now using the existing resources to ride this wave and conquer more markets for your own business if you are following the best practices in the digital innovation and digital transformation. So, and because it is 2020 and everyone is scared and everyone have very tight budgets, we're not going to look into the M&A, we're not going to look into the massive build outs of new technologies and new business lines. We're going to look inside our companies to find the resources and the ways we can transform those resources that are used by Silicon Valley companies and beyond to transform their businesses, to generate additional revenues, and to save on the expenses. So without further ado, let me switch to my presentation. So as I said, we're going to talk about 6 things. So the first thing we're going to talk about is shared economy, followed by everything as a service, followed by the viral marketing. Then we're going to talk about data monetization, business platformification, and finally, we're going to talk about the advisory board. All those concepts have been around for quite some time, and a lot of Silicon Valley companies, a lot of those really successful Silicon Valley companies that have been pulling S&P 500 higher, been using those resources for a number of years. So let's go into more detail for each and every one of them. So the first one is shared economy. And shared economy obviously have been on the news for pretty much for the last decade. If we talk about Uber, if we talk about Airbnb, if we talk about Netflix, if we talk about Alibaba, all of them are really based on the asset, right? So someone have the asset, not the company, and that asset is being used by the company to bring the customers to that asset. And we also have, so to speak, a primary user here who own this asset and extract the majority of the value from that asset. So again, if we talk about Uber, it will be cars. If we talk about Airbnb, it's going to be real estate, and we all know it. But how can we transform it our way? So first of all, let's take the example of Airbnb. Let's say you do have some real estate. Let's say you do own some businesses or you do own some lands. Obviously, as more and more people working from home, maybe you do not need the whole building. Maybe you do not need all the 5 floors that you have. Maybe you can sublease them or you can transform them into the common area where people who are your clients or maybe your suppliers can use. Think about example of the Autodesk creators of the AutoCAD. What they have is that they have a prototyping lab that they opened for their customers so they can go in and using their AutoCAD software, use that software to produce prototypes. Maybe you have some land that you can rent out or repurpose, again, for certain issues. Let's say that you have equipment, you're in construction business, and you have equipment that just pretty much sitting around. Why not rent it out? Why not produce another set of income coming from the assets that you already have that might be underutilized or not utilized at all? And you can also think about beyond your physical assets. Think about money. So there's also a very interesting trend that is happening that we're going to follow up in a second that is called banking as a service, BaaS. And Uber and other companies are really practicing on that. But what does it mean? Imagine this. Imagine that if your profit after all of the taxes, so on and so forth, is at 10%. And then let's say that instead of using some additional bank and pretty much not earning anything from your revenue, and let's say 50% of your expenses, you're going through you as a bank. So imagine that instead of transmitting money to your employee account in some other bank, you have the bank of your own where you keep those money and they can use them exactly the same. Your employees can use them exactly the same as they use their own bank, but you keep the money for the time being. You can make it as simple as possible. You can have just a checking account, which you can be using for your customers and for your suppliers. So meaning you can process 100% of your revenue and 50% of your expenses through your own banking solution. And you do not need to create the bank. Banking as a service provides a way for you to use existing banking infrastructure, including regulations, including licenses, to actually do the banking operations within your company on the white label platform. So again, imagine that you can do this. If you can put 100% of your revenue and 50% of your expenses, let's say just to make things easier, to 150% of your revenue through your banking as a service. And let's say you just earn 50 basis points, 0.5% on that revenue. So that means that you have earned another 75 basis points after all of the paying for banking as a service and so on and so forth, which leads to your total profit right now, if you're earning just 75 basis points on this, to 10.75%. So you just increased your margin by 7.5% by doing just this. And obviously it actually can be even more profitable. I'm just giving a very simple example where we do not account a couple of the transactions that can happen back and forth going forward. So again, look into all the assets that you have, your suppliers, your customers, your physical assets, your virtual assets, your employees, as a way to transform your business. The next thought is everything as a service. So we already touched one. So we have banking as a service, that meaning that some banks are willing to provide their banking services for a fixed fee as pretty much the outsource. So think about it this way. The majority of the companies kind of work like this. So we have a revenue here on top. The majority of the companies are focusing on this, how to create revenue. And this is their core value proposition. And then once they have generated the revenue, they need to do all the other things that are sort of, so to speak, are tangential to their business. They need to keep track of the bookkeeping. They need to keep track of the reporting. They need to keep track of know your customer, anti-money laundering, KYC, AML. They need to keep track of myriad other things that kind of go down from that list. And meaning that none of the companies who are focusing on their revenue as their core service will not be focusing as much on the bookkeeping, right? So for example, if you're a bank, your core value, your core principle, your core way to earn the revenue is to provide the banking services. Unfortunately, you have to do all those other things. And none of those banks will say that we provide the value to our customers by providing the best KYC or best reporting capacity for our customers. They all focus on their core proposition, on their revenue. And in the 99% of the cases, your revenue, your specialty is not some of those back and middle office functions as we see on the screen. However, there are a lot of companies for whom the bookkeeping, reporting, KYC, AML, all those things are the core businesses. We have a variety of the companies. We have Plaid, we have Comply Advantage. We have a lot of really big unicorns that exist in Silicon Valley and beyond that doing those functions within the organization as their core business. So there are a lot of companies who are providing the value by making bookkeeping their core business, meaning that now you can safely outsource that bookkeeping functions that you hold within the organization to the outside provider. And chances are that because this is their core, this is their revenue, they're doing it better than you. Not just because it is how they earn their revenue, but also because they see more and more companies. And instead of working with just you, they might be working with 20 other banks, and they can pull this information, they can pull some of the know-how together and do it better than you just because they see more and more cases. So they can actually provide you more risk management, more control, and more insights that you might have right now in your pipeline. But that's one way of saying this. There is also another option that we can use, is that think about this way. What if your reporting mechanism that you built inside the organization is so good that it's really above and beyond everyone else? So why not make your reporting as a service? So think about some of the work that you already have been doing, your employees, your know-hows, your technologies, your connections. You can use them as a service to the other players on the market. And if you're really doing a fantastic job, why not take this already existing resources and transform them as a service? Think about if you're a pharmaceutical company. Let's say you have a wonderful clinical trial organization that produces tests for you. And at the same time, they might be fantastic, but they might not be loaded 100% of the time. They underutilized, and they do not really generate any revenue just because they support your own functions. So why not open it for some other companies that might be interested in doing those clinical trials? If you already have a fantastic organization, why not earn money on it? The third portion is viral marketing. And think about our traditional kind of classical marketing. So that usually tells your customer that bias, right? And you can get creative about it. You can say in the various way of how you can do it. But think about this way. If you are a specialist in the particular field. So again, let's take you a pharmaceutical and you working on COVID vaccine right now. You already have a brilliant scientist. You have a brilliant technologies, you have a lot of resources within you that you can transform into the YouTube videos, you can transform to the blog posts, you can transform it to the Twitter posts. You can take that knowledge, you can take that something special that your company has and broadcast it to the outside world. It requires very little resources. You just need to find the people who are willing to get recorded, like myself in my home. You need to find a topic that might be interesting to the people around you. And you can go and put it on YouTube, and it will do two things. If you're a bigger company, you will really strengthen your brand. Your brand will be strengthened and presented as a leader in that field. But also, if you're a smaller company, it might be actually a revenue stream. I'm not saying that you should turn your company into the video logging company, but there is a lot of people making a lot of money on it. And it's, especially if you're a small company, they can bring you several $1 million a year if you really have a specialty in the field that really interests people. Sort of like infotainment, where you provide information and entertainment at the same time. And it's not only something as buzzy as COVID. Think about if you're a construction company. You can create a how-to videos for your general YouTube population. Again, does not require a lot of effort. You already have people who know how to do it, and they will probably be providing higher value than all the other existing how-to people on the platforms, on the YouTube, on the TikTok, whatever you name it, because they do it better, because you're a leader in that field. And that viral marketing will not only strengthen your brand and present opportunities throughout the global business ecosystem, it will make your brand more digital transformative, and it will actually encourage your employees because they'll see themselves on the YouTube, and there's going to be a lot of views, and they will feel accomplished by doing this. So again, think about viral marketing and how it can look into your existing skills that you have within the organization to kickstart your transformation. Then data monetization, and this is a really tricky one because everyone understands that big data is a key. But unfortunately, in order for big data to become a key, which is the most important thing, you need to collect this data. And that's something that usually companies have capacity for. They might have a server, you can go and rent in the AWS, you can go to the Azure, you can rent that storage for the data, but you need to collect it and store it. Unless you collect and store this data, there is no way you can monetize this. And again, just by storing this data, by collecting this data, it opens a plethora of opportunities. So take whatever you have, try to collect as much data. Don't focus on anything else. Try to collect as much data as possible and find a way you can store this data. Because once you have this established, the rest is just mechanics. You can you can use some of the models, you can use some of the a very simple data science technique. You can even use just simple visualization to look into that data, so it will give you insights towards your business on how you can monetize that. So this is extremely important to just collect and store. A lot of companies come to us for the advising on how to become a data-driven companies, and I always say that first, look into how you're collecting and how you're storing the data. The next thing is business platformification, and it has been discussed in the various sources, including in the SVIC videos, but again, think about how you can use some of those assets, some of those connections that you have with both suppliers and the customers to make a platform. So, for example, let's take a very simple example. Let's say you're a massage salon. And in the current environment that when people are sitting in their homes, the wellness is kind of challenged, right? So how can you actually provide the wellness to your employees? So what you can do, right? So here you have a massage salon. And here you might have different companies. So companies maybe want to provide massage to their employees. They can, let's say, open a portion of the office, and some people can come in, and at the same time they can receive a massage as a wellness, as a stress relief mechanism within that open portion of the office. So, and you as a massage salon, you can go in, let's say you have five massage therapists. You can go in and you can work with one or two companies, and yes, you can get yourself to that utilization level that you want, but then at the same time, there are going to be some problems. What if some people leave? Well, what if there is more demand that you can handle? Do you want to pass those opportunities? So how about this? How about that you just limiting to your own clients, create a platform based on your own requirements. And again, it does not need to be fancy. You can start with the simple Google Forms and the manual billing in the very beginning. But what you can do is that you can take your customers and multiply them, make more and more and more of them. And then this is on the demand side. And then on the supply side, don't go and hire your new massage therapist. What you can do is that invite other massage salons on your platform, and they will handle the demand. They will handle the supply of the massage therapist. They will handle everything that goes in, right? So now you're increasing the supply. And you just take, I don't know, 10 to 20% of whatever they earn, and literally sky is the limit. Because then maybe this salon is going to bring 2 more companies on board, and maybe this salon is going to make 3 more companies on board, and then just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And you do not have any limitations such as Facebook, such as LinkedIn, such as all of those social networks. You can create this platform, and by starting with your own expertise, with your own problem, with your own customers, you can build a business that is far bigger than you can ever handle. And then the last part is the advisory board. So Silicon Valley has been built by 2 things, by the entrepreneurs and venture capital. And for those small startups, you never go and hire big consultancies firms, A, because it's really expensive, B, because it does not always work when you're trying to do something new. Yes, they can provide some of the best practices, but at the same time, not really. In order for you to start the digital transformation, in order for you to start going through all those steps that you see of your innovation journey, you need to do it from within. But sometimes you need some additional experience. A lot of people come to us for that additional experience from best practices from Silicon Valley, as I share right now. So how startups and entrepreneurs have been handling in Silicon Valley? Clearly through the board of directors. So what happened is that when you have a venture capital firm that invests into particular startups, they bring their partner who are veterans in that industry, and they bring them on the director's board of that particular company. And what the director does, they advise the company on what direction to take. They do not do real work. They do not provide a 150-page pitch deck. They steer the company into the right direction. They are people who have a lot of experience, who know a lot of players in the ecosystem, and they can help you internally to transform you. They can tell you what the technology options, they can tell you what are some principles that you can use because they went through this digital transformation journey. And we have several clients who approached us to do exactly this. We compiled the advisory board that helped companies to initiate that digital transformation by hiring our specialists from Silicon Valley Innovation Center, by hiring outside specialists, outside experts from leading Silicon Valley companies, so you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can just go and take the best practices that have been already there, take that expertise, do not pay them to work for you full-time, but give advisory to your board of directors, to your functional units, even to the people who are actually doing the real work on how to do certain things better. You do not hire, you do not outsource the work. You bring in all the knowledge and you educate your own people to be the carriers of the digital transformation. So this advisory board approach, something that again has been used in Silicon Valley for a number of years, prove its effectiveness, and can help you to take all those things that I mentioned, all those 5 principles that we have discussed, to take them into the right direction. So that's everything that I have for you today. Hopefully it was interesting. If you have any commentary, if you have any questions, please put them under this particular video. Don't hesitate to reach out to me directly on LinkedIn or any other platforms. And I hope to see you soon in the various engagement of Silicon Valley Innovation Center. Thank you.